Hello everybody. Right, I'm going to talk about my life and I'm going to try and contrast that with the life of somebody that's living in the homeless hostel. In Leicester City we've actually got 12 different hostels catering for homeless families, and we've also got other hostels that cater specifically for single adults. The hostel I've focused this on is actually the largest hostel and it's probably got the worst facilities available for families in Leicester. My day starts 6:30. I got up and took my son to work. It was icy that morning and he's just started work and he's got a motorbike. I'm worried about him. I can give him a little bit of extra support because I'm available and I've got that ability at the moment. But my homeless family, their life started at 5:30 that morning. She woke up wondering about her 17-year-old. He's too old to be in a hostel. And a lot of hostels, particularly domestic violence hostels, have an age criteria, particularly for boys. Very often they won't allow boys in the hostels if they're over the age of 12, which can mean that they get separated from the family and have to go and stay elsewhere. And that could be an additional stress for the parent, but it's also a huge stress for the child as well. 7 o'clock in the morning, I'd like to say I have a nice, quiet, peaceful breakfast, but I've got 4 children, so we scream and yell at each other, load the washing machine and the dishwasher, and I'm off to work. But 6 o'clock, she's having a quick breakfast. The bread's dry. There's no facilities for storing your food very easily. In the hostel, you've got a shared fridge. If you're very lucky, you've got a shared freezer as well. But the freezer is this high off the floor. It's really tiny, and that would be shared with between 3 different families. So it's really tight to be able to get food available and easily done. You've got no control over the heating, so it's really difficult to keep the place cool at night time. And we have lots of problems with babies getting over hot during the night. And obviously if you're storing your food in there, which you have to because otherwise somebody else is going to pinch your food's going to get dry very easily. 10 to 7, you've now got to catch the first bus across town. The biggest homeless families hostel is up right on the outskirts of Leicester City, and it's about 8 miles to go from one side of Leicester City to the other. So she's going to have to get a bus into town and then another bus from town back out to the school where her children's at. And in some cases it can end up being 3 bus journeys rather than just 2. It's not an easy journey to make, and the Leicester City Council's view is that any child over the age of 9 is capable of making that journey on their own. Which, as a health visitor, I would be saying your child's not capable of crossing the road until they're 11, but for some reason the City Council views it as okay to catch a bus on your own in and out of town. So they provide bus tickets for the child, free of charge, but they don't provide a bus ticket for the parent. So it really eats into the parent's money as to how much income she's got to be able to afford. Me, I can set off. My daughter gets on the school bus. It's a single journey. She takes about 20 minutes. It's all paid for. She lives slightly more than 3 miles away. But you don't get that in Leicester City. It's different. 8:30 is my first visit of the day. I do a lot of visits at 8:30 in the morning. Most health visitors would tend to be quite kind to families and not start banging on the doors till 9:30 or 10 o'clock. But I'm trying to catch people that have got these bus journeys to make. And sometimes I will go out and see families at 7 o'clock in the morning because I'm trying to catch them while they're free. This particular lady, I always do a transfer-in assessment. Part of my standard is that I will do a development assessment on every child that comes into the hostel, and I aim to do that within 2 weeks of their arrival in the hostel. The reason for that is that a lot of the families have been, because they've been moving around all over the place, but they've missed out on the mainstream services, not through any sort of major fault of their own, and certainly not through any fault of the service itself, but it's just the way things happen. This particular child that I was doing assessment on, she was 2.5, and she got swallowing problems. She was dribbling and was still wearing a bib at the age of 2.5, and nobody had picked that up. She'd been in to see the GP when she was baby was about 8 months old, and the GP had said, "Oh yeah, that's okay. 8 months old, it's normal. Do dribbling," and she'd not been able to take it any further from then because her housing issue had become the biggest issue, and she'd been constantly moving around the place. The mother of this child was unfortunate. She was raped when she was 14 years old, and subsequent to that, she then got involved in substance misuse, and she had 3 children, and she stopped using the substances with her second child. This is her 3rd child. All of the children have got speech and language issues, and certainly when we were talking with her, she was really mortified that she thought that I thought that there might be a connection between the substance misuse and the speech and language, and she was so guilty. She felt so guilty about it, and it was trying to explain to her that she can help that. It's not a problem that is unsolvable. With really good parenting and lots of time spent with the children, she can help them to move on from there. We worked really positively with her. We managed to get her referred to the paediatricians, and in Leicester City we've now got a service that's a quick access service, so that when the referral is sent in by myself, I mark it as being homeless, which means that the paediatricians will prioritise those children and try and get them seen a little bit quicker, because this might be the only opportunity we're going to get to see this child before they get moved on to somewhere else, and we might be losing them again. So we need to grab it and do it quick. 9:30, dash back to the office and sort out my emails and record visit and complete referrals. 9:30, she gets a second bus, didn't let her get on. In Leicester City, you can't get onto a bus if there's more than 2 pushchairs on the bus unless your pushchair folds up. And that can mean that you have families standing waiting constantly at bus stops as buses come and buses go, and they're not allowed on. The kids get into school late again, and she's going to get moaned at again by the school staff. It's starting to really eat into her budget. And she's going to probably spend tomorrow hanging around by the school to try and reduce the cost. But she's got a child that's not at school, that's going to be with her and going to be hanging around. Let's hope it's going to be a nice, dry, sunny day. 10:30, I'm off to clinic. I've got one clinic that I run within the family hostel, and I run it inside the creche facility that they have there. It's not ideal. I've got families that are walking in and out trying to use the baby change facility that's also in the same room. It's really difficult to make it private. We've got the first child that comes in has got thrush, and thrush is a really common problem within the hostel. A lot of it is to do with the fact that it's budgets and you can't afford to keep changing the children's nappies, so you try and hang on to that nappy for as long as you possibly can. And it's about educating parents about how, when they need to change the nappy, which ones can they leave, which ones can't they leave, and talking to them about that. Another one comes in and needs a winter coat for her child, and the 2-year-old has got an ear infection. Ear infections are really common with children where their parents are smoking. I'm sure you're aware of that. And I spent some time talking to her about stopping smoking. Now, you wouldn't think that anybody who's got the pressure of being homeless is going to be receptive to let's stop smoking as well while you're at it. But a lot of the families will have a go. And although some of those families may not get all the way through it, they may well relapse. Each time you've had a go, that's one step closer to stopping smoking altogether. So it's well worth the effort. I'm talking on the phone with voluntary services, trying to arrange for them to provide a free food hygiene course for the families in the hostel. I've decided to have a bit of a drive on infection control, and I've been trying to get the hostels to do simple things like put in chopping boards for families, so they're not all chopping their cooked meat and their raw meat on the same work surface, which has worked. I'm quite pleased with that. And they also, the Cynthia Trust came in and agreed to run the course for us free of charge. So it is possible to get things done without a budget. 10:30, my client, and she's got an appointment with housing. They give her lots of information and ask her lots of questions, and then they ask her to prove that she's not got any rent arrears from private rent that was 2 years ago. She comes away from that. She's not sure how she's going to get that, but very often she will not tell anybody about the fact that she's now been asked to get this and doesn't know how to do it or where to go about it. It's really important that the key workers grab hold of the people when they come back from housing options and talk to them and find out what's gone on, what needs to be done. Because the families, if they don't know, will tend to just, oh, I'll leave it and walk away, and that will slow the process down. 12:00, I get a visit with an interpreter to an Arabic-speaking family. I'm going in there to demonstrate contraceptive methods, but I'm a little bit concerned. And when I'm doing it with the interpreter, I'm watching the client. You lose a lot of body language when you're using interpreters. But I'm watching my client, and she seems a little bit nervous about her partner. I use needing to complete a chlamydia test. In fact, it was a major excuse because she's 26. And chlamydia test you'd normally do with an under 24, but it was just what I could think of to be able to get us into a little room and away from him so we could have a chat. She denied it. She said there was no risk, there was no threat. She didn't feel threatened by him at all in any way whatsoever. Reassured me that everything was okay. But I'm still worried. So I just tell her about the services anyway that would be available to her if she had got an issue. And I leave. I go out and talk to hostel staff, and I will plan to talk to the hostel staff, and hopefully I'll get hold of them later that day, and have a chat with them about what's going on with that family. Are there arguments going on? Are other residents reporting arguments and violence? My homeless family, 12 o'clock, the little one's fed up now. He's been in the buggy since 6:30 this morning. He's really fed up. He needs to be fed, but she's only got £1.50. It's not going to get much when you're in town and on your own and trying to buy a sort of ready meal. But McDonald's is brilliant, 99p. So this child will often be living on McDonald's type foods, fast foods, quick foods that are easy to get hold of, cheap foods. A Mars bar, 69 pence, will leave your child feeling quite full. It's easier and quicker than trying to produce a full and healthy meal. A sandwich would cost you £1.99. Me at 1 o'clock, I've got a visit to a child protection for child and family. Both parents have got a history of substance misuse, and they're obtaining the script okay, but they need to talk to the drugs team to check if she's accessing services. Very often families tell me what I want to hear, and well, what they think I want to hear, and not actually what's going on. So sometimes they'll be saying to me, oh yeah, I'm trotting up and down the drug service, I'm seeing them regularly, and I ring up and find out that, well, no, they haven't been seen for several days, they've said they've not got the bus fare to get in, and if we do a bit of talking, we could get that sorted out. This particular lady was really interesting because she demonstrated the huge gulf that there is between myself and her. We were talking about weaning, and she was saying that she felt she was really anxious that her child would hate her and feel really guilty over the enforced separation that had happened earlier in his life. But while we were talking about weaning, we were talking about how food can be used to emotionally make you feel better. And she didn't seem to quite grasp what I was trying to refer to. And I said, can you give me any examples of when you felt that you were really loved and wanted, something that made you feel that you were loved and wanted? And she thought for a bit, and then she said, oh yeah, I remember. I was on a trip with the school. We'd gone to the zoo. And my mum and dad came and tried to kidnap me from the teachers. It made me feel really loved and wanted. And it just made me think, whoa, where am I going here? Because that's not what I'd meant, but it just demonstrated she was in care at the time. And it was just demonstrating to me that huge gulf really is big. And we did a referral to the CEIP, I can never remember what it stands for, Child Education, Intervention and Psychology Service. And they do a brilliant service. They've got some people that come out and do some attachment work with under fives in the hostels. They'll come out and play games with the parents, get the parents involved in their child again. And they do some fantastic work. But it's such a small service. They've got half a day, and we've got 150, 160 children under 5 that are probably going to have some sort of attachment issues. So it's an awful lot of people she's got to get around. 1 o'clock, my family have got back to the hostel. They've got to see family support staff trying to arrange a creche place for the little one. But the little creche facilities are only open in the morning, and she can't manage those hours. Creche facilities are open for the hostel from 9:30 to 11:30, which if you've got children at school is not going to meet those requirements. It is useful from the point of view, it does give you a little bit of break. Sometimes it means you can get an appointment and be seen by somebody within those hours, but it really is quite tight to be able to be of any use to anybody. When I first started working at the hostel, they were there from 9 till 3, which was a lot better for the children because it meant that if parents had got a long and arduous, difficult conversation to have at the housing options department, the child could be left somewhere where they could be playing and enjoying themselves, and she didn't need to be worrying about it. The services have been hugely cut because of public sector cuts. She needs to get some washing done. Mine's already going around. Somebody will have got it out and shoved it in the dryer. But she needs to get some washing done. And she has to stay by the machine, so she's not going to have time to do that. If she doesn't stay by the machine, somebody else will empty it as soon as it finishes, and chances are her stuff will get nicked. 2 o'clock, I'm back at the office. System 1 hated. I get a phone call from family support about Mrs. X. She's in the office. Domestic violence, and it was domestic violence. They're going to be moving her to a hostel today. It was worth having that conversation, even though she was denying what was going on. 1:45, my family are back on the buses. They're off to get the kids from the school. They'll need to see family support staff about changing the kids' school. They can't keep this up. They'll try. Lots of families will try and keep it up for a little while, but for most families, after about 4 weeks of trogging backwards and forwards across town, they'll give that up, which means that the children will get to change school yet again, and it has huge impacts on their abilities in school. They've got to make new friends yet again. They've got loss and separation from the friends that they've already had. They get behind with their education. They start to act up in school because it's a way of trying to make themselves seem that everything's okay and get the other kids to like me. So it gets hugely difficult for them. Within most homeless families, you will find that the children will have changed school at least 5 times before they've actually left primary school, which is an awful lot of change. I get back, I dash off, I go and get my kids from school. 3:30, the kids have brought some friends home to play. I can go and sit down, have a cup of tea, do a bit of internet shopping. My family can't do that. They can't bring kids back to the hostel, certainly not bring other friends back. The other friends' mothers at the school will have discovered by now that she's living at the hostel, and they'll tend to shun her, and the kids will also be told, no, you can't go, don't play with him, he's in a homeless hostel. 6 o'clock, get tea, get my kids ready for Cubs. 5:30, and she's only just getting back to the hostel. She can't cook, the other family are already there using the cooker. In the hostel, the Border House hostel, there is 3 rooms, and each family will be given 1 room, and you've got a shared lounge area and a shared kitchen. The kitchen is a walk-through straight from the lounge. There's no way to protect the kitchen, there's no safety gates that are available to stop children going from the lounge into the kitchen area. So if another family's cooking and you've got a toddler you're trying to keep out of the way, it means you have to spend your time back in your room. You can't be out there because it's just too dangerous. The cooking facilities are basic electric cookers, and they've only got 3 or 4 burners and an oven that takes forever to get going. The hostel do provide a cleaning service, so somebody will come and clean the ovens, but it's only done once a month, and a lot of families won't clean the ovens, so a lot of families won't use this stuff. We have problems with equipment. Families are trying to use baking tray, 1 baking tray between 3 families, 3 saucepans if you're lucky. Maybe there might be a bowl that you can mix something up in. It's really difficult to do cooking and to do healthy food. And here am I banging on about doing 5 bits of fruit and veg in a day. Like, get real, Maxine. 8 o'clock, get the kids to do their homework. They're too tired, give it up, and then have a fight with a 2-year-old to get him under a shower. Nearly all of the hostels have got shower facilities. We've got 1 hostel in Leicester City that's got a bath. And most children under 5 don't like being put in a shower of any description. Mine, I've got a bath at home, they get in, I've got 2 baths at the moment. They get in, have a nice bath, have a play. 8:30, and I'm off out. Kids are in bed, tucked up tidy, and I'm off out to go and play a game of squash. My family, 9 o'clock, her kids are just getting into bed. Other residents sit down and start chatting to her, and they start telling her about all of their problems as well. And she's trying to help that family and taking on board some of the problems and issues that they've got, and that's making her feel worse. I hope my squash game, a bit fictitious this, I won. But I have a nice peaceful night getting to bed. She doesn't. 10 o'clock, the kids are up, they're disturbed by the girl in the room next door. She's playing loud music. You put a DVD on for her kids, and I hope they'll settle with that. 10:30, they finally get the kids off to bed. And then 12 o'clock, the fire alarms go off. Somebody's come back and started cooking toast. It's lethal in the hostel, it's always setting the alarms off. Everybody has to go out, stand on the street outside. You have to wait for half an hour for the fire brigade to say it's okay before we can all trot back in. Everybody's now wide awake, everybody's gone back to being chatting, all the noise starts up again. 3 o'clock, her 7-year-old wakes up, she's wet the bed again. She's too scared to use the loo at night because there's different families in there. She doesn't know who's going to be in there. And sometimes there will be new families that are moved in during the night. So you might have gone to bed with an empty room and find that there's another family living in there first thing the following morning. So it's really scary for little ones to be trotting off to the toilet at night. You get provided with sheets whilst you're in the hostel, but the sheets only get changed once a week. So if your child's wet the bed, you've got to go and find somebody and plead with them if they will then provide you with a sheet when it's out of not dawn day to have that sheet. And lots of parents don't want to do that. They don't want to admit that their child's got a little bit of a problem at the minute. And it's really, really difficult. My life is easy. I might be a specialist health visitor working with homeless families, but it's an easy, easy job. It's nowhere near as bad as hers. Thank you. That's it. Right. The next bit is about the Q&I. The Queen's Nursing Institute and I was really lucky when I first moved into working with homeless families. I didn't know anything about working with homeless families when I started doing the job. Somebody just decided to give it to me because nobody else had applied, I think. Anyway, I started working with homeless families, and I was after a little bit of money. I wanted to be able to start a project to be able to gather together information about what services were available. I was then working in Hinckley, what services were available that could be used for by homeless families. And I found this website and Queen's Nursing Institute, and it said that there was a small grant that I could apply for. I'd never applied for a grant before, and it was scary. But it said at the bottom I could ring this person up, so I rang them up and said, I've not done this before, what do I need to do? And they told me. They were really helpful. They put it in simple English that I understood, and it wasn't all maths and graphs and charts and things. So I put my application through, and I was successful. Queen's Nursing Institute was brilliant. They came out and gave me some money, and they also gave me lots of support to be able to get that project up and off the ground. The best thing about that project was that it led to the formation of the Hinckley's Homeless Forum, because it gathered together all the people that could be involved with homeless families, and it allowed us to start to have these meetings and discussions about how we could even better support the families that were going in the Hinckley area. It was brilliant. I then left Hinckley after a while after that, and I went off to go and work with asylum-seeking families. And then I was invited to apply for a Queen's Nurse title, which I did. And then I was very luckily also awarded another small grant to fund a survey of homeless families. I swapped again from working with asylum seekers back to working with homeless families. And this survey was about asking families about their experiences of healthcare. It was brilliant. The Queen's Nursing Institute was fantastic because they gave me the questionnaire, and all I had to do was tweak the little bits here and there to make it fit my area, and it was already there and done for me. It was brilliant, and it also meant that the data that I got from it I could then compare with other people that had also tried to use this survey in different areas across the UK. It also allowed me to write it up. I put it all together and sent it off to some guy in my trust called Craig, who was brilliant. He put all the charts together for me and made it look really... I put it into a PDF format, and I'd never done that before. That was really good. And it came back and it looked dead posh, and I thought, I'll have a go with this. And I sent it off to my journal. Now, I can remember starting as a basic grade health visitor and looking at the health visiting journal and thinking, I wonder if I'll ever have anything worth saying to be able to put into that. And now I've got something that I felt I could send in. And they published it. It was really good. We then got onto a steering group, and I've been able to have an influence on through the Opening Doors project on the kinds of information that's provided to homeless nurses. And I found that really useful. It's made me feel that I've got a voice that can be raised in nursing. I then went on with the Queen's Nursing Institute to develop a vulnerabilities assessment tool, which I've taken from there, and I've used that as a teaching aid and to demonstrate the complexities of families' needs, and used it as an objective assessment tool to help with decisions as to whether or not families require CAF or family support or child protection. It's much easier if you've got a simple tool that will help you to focus your thoughts a little bit. The Queen's Nursing Institute has also recently provided nutritional guidance, and I'm planning to use that. I'm currently trying to go through the auditing process with my trust to get jumping through some hoops to be allowed to be able to use this with the homeless families in the hostels, so that we can actually get some hard data and then be able to look at how we can improve things for the homeless families in the hostels, and hopefully to improve the cooking facilities that's available and the storage facilities available will all get improved as part of that. Okay. And that's it.